Alright, so I have here just the piece of knitting I'm working on. For knitters, it's a 1x1 rib. I'm holding the yarn with my left hand, and I am doing it combination style. You have a series of live loops. Each loop is connected to the loop below it, and when you knit, you use these two pointy sticks to go in to your loop, draw new yarn through, and then you take the previous loop off. So I'm going in the loop, drawing the yarn through, and the old loop off. Now the way I'm doing this is I'm going in through the front, and then I'm going through the back, but I'm wrapping my yarn in the clockwise direction, just because I'm doing this combination style. But the motion and the idea is the same. I'm pulling new yarn through existing loops to create new loops, and I just work my way across the row. So far, so good. With crochet, I'm just going to start with a slip knot. So I just like to use my crochet hook to draw the slip knot through. That way the slip knot is already on my hook, but you can tie a slip knot any way you want. So I just go in through the back, tie the knot, put the slip knot on your hook, and tighten. Now I'm tensioning the yarn the same way. In fact, when I started knitting, I learned how to knit with yarn in my right hand, but because I also learned to crochet around the same time, somewhere between the ages of 11 and 13, switching to left-handed knitting was pretty easy because this is how I already tensioned my yarn. If you are not a tensioning with your left hand knitter, the way I tension my yarn is I come around the back, I come up over my finger, and then I pinch the yarn at the base of my crochet hook. So just like that. Now you don't have to. Some people just bring it up over their finger and tension it that way, and some people just hold it out. But since this is the method that I learned, from the back over the pinky, and then over the finger like this, and then pinch, the wrap pinch. I've learned that. I've been doing that for quite a while, so I'm just used to it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use I'm twisting my wrist. I can also slide the hook in and out of where I'm going, and I can also rotate it this way, or I can rotate it this way. So I'm doing a lot more wrist motion with crochet than I do with knitting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap the yarn clockwise. So this is called a yarn over because I'm putting the yarn over, and then it's going to catch on this hook. So I'm going to use the hook to draw a loop through a loop. So this is basically the equivalent of a knit stitch, except instead of using two sticks, I'm using a single hook. And if I keep going, this is called the chain stitch. You can see that the front of it just looks like the knit stitch, right? I'm pulling a loop through a loop. So this looks like a column of knit stitches. It's essentially a column of knit stitches, except there's nothing to either side. So if you were just knitting a piece with just one cast on stitch, this is what it would look like. So you can make your chain stitch as long as you want, and we're only moving in one direction. So with crochet, now that we have this foundation chain, we can start adding height one row at a time. So this first type of stitch is called single crochet. Single crochet is a single chain stitch tall. So this very last chain stitch off my hook, the one on my hook doesn't count. This very first chain stitch off my hook, I'm going to think about rotating this up 90 degrees. So this is going to be the height of my row. So I'm going to go into the second chain from the hook. So 1, 2, I'm going to go into the second chain. Now, it doesn't matter where I place my hook really. And I'm going to just draw a loop through. This is now, and then I can do just a chain stitch. I am now 1 chain stitch tall. I can go into the second one, draw through a loop, and then do a single chain stitch. I can go through, draw through a loop, and then do a single chain stitch. So this is a row that is 1 chain stitch tall. This is 1 chain stitch tall. But now in crochet, we don't leave our loops live the way you do in knitting, unless you're doing Tunisian crochet, but that's a story for a different day. So what you do instead is, just like your bind off row in knitting, you're going to be binding off each stitch as you make it. So right now I'm binding off all the stitches at once because I didn't bind off each stitch as I made it. Oh, I split my yarn. This is very splitty cotton yarn. Okay, so these are now single crochet stitches. They are 1 chain stitch tall. So let me show you what the single crochet stitch looks like when I'm binding it off as I go. I'm going into the next, I'm picking up a stitch, I'm creating the 1 chain stitch tall, that's the height, and then I'm going to immediately bind off. So I'm creating the height and I'm binding off at the same time. So I'm creating the height and I'm binding off. Now, usually you do that all in one motion. So you bring the loop through, there's 2 loops, you create the height and you bind off in one smooth motion. So you bring the loop through, you create the height and you bind off in one smooth motion. And usually when you look at crochet tutorials, it'll say, now there's 2 loops, now there's back down to 1 loop. You draw it through, and now I have 2 loops, back down to 1 loop. What you're doing is you're creating the height and you're binding off the previous stitch at the same time. So unlike with knitting, we don't have live loops. Each stitch is bound off immediately after creating it. So here is a row of single crochet stitches. If I want to go back in the other direction, I need to first create my height. So I'm going to chain 1, that's the height. I'm going to turn, and then I'm going to just put my hook in here, create the height, and immediately bind off. Create the height, and immediately bind off. And it's actually harder to do this in 2 movements than in just 1 if you get used to it. Now the key things to pay attention to are the orientation of this hook. If the hook is facing you or facing the string, the live string, it will catch it and pull it through. If the hook is away from the loops, it won't catch on the loops. So if I'm going through, I'm drawing a loop through, I want to orient this hook down. If I orient the hook towards me, it will catch on the loops that are already on my hook. But if I orient it down into that gap in between, it will draw smoothly through. And then I don't want to drop the loop, so then I orient it back upward. So the hook is towards me, the hook is down so it doesn't catch, the hook is towards me, the hook is down so it doesn't catch. Oh, I yarned over before I went through. Okay, the hook is down, the hook is towards me, the hook is, I kind of rotate it up to catch it, I rotate it down, and then I draw it through. So it's doing a lot of rotation. I'm rotating this hook quite a bit through each stitch. I'm going hook down through, hook towards me, hook down, hook up, hook down, hook up, and finish. So that is quite a lot of rotation. That's probably the part that's the hardest. Now, I use my fingers to rotate. I do not use my whole wrist. I mean, I use both, but I do use my fingers to rotate my hook. It's a lot less strain on your joints if you're using your fingers to rotate. Now, I do like the thumb rest because that lets me do it by feel. I know when it's facing towards me, when it's up, when it's down, but I don't always use my whole wrist. That would, I think, put a lot of strain on my wrist joints. So you can give that a shot, and hopefully that made sense to you, the knitter. I'm going to end this video, and maybe I'll record something for double crochet as well.